Two experts in ICF. Decades of experience. One podcast. Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss. And she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
Welcome back.
We are here to work.
Yes.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast. Super excited. This is, as we said, we have another podcast we've done for going on our 5th season now for 5 years, and not anywhere near the excitement in our first few seasons that we've already got out of the first 3 episodes of this podcast. So,
yeah, it's been really cool.
I mean, just huge feedback on it. Tons, a great list compiling of guests that want to come on and talk about their product and educate people about this. So I think it's going to be super cool. I'm like I said, I knew it was needed, but I'm really pleasantly surprised with how fast everything's taking off with just from an analytics standpoint, from downloads and where we're getting contacts from and stuff. So super excited. So hope all of you that have reached out to us are listening right now, and thank you very much, and keep doing it. And if you haven't, please do. We love the feedback of questions you have and things we're going to go, because we have a lot of episodes we got to do to answer all the questions. It's crazy, but it's fun because it's what I've done for over 20 years, and I'm excited to get that information out of my head and into other people, with the help of a lot of other people too as well. So today we're kind of going to transition off of our last guest when we had Vanessa on from the ICF Builder magazine. And one of the things we talked about with her Builder magazine was the fact that they put out a ICF comparison chart every year. And it's probably the most useful tool I think that anyone can have, for different reasons. I mean, we as a sales guy from the industry, it was a really good way for me to keep a pulse on who was out there, what was going on, learning about new brands that may have popped in, brands that were in different areas of the country and stuff. So it's a really, really great, really great tool, and it's on the Build with ICF. It's what is their website again?
ICFmag.com.
ICFmag.com. You go on there, it's right on the front page. You can scroll down, and there's a comparison chart for every year that you are updated anyway. So.
It's updated annually, yeah. I thought that it used to be in the magazine, but it's such a, I was looking at the chart today, and it would be hard to look at in the magazine because it would have to be printed so small to get all the information that they have. Yeah. So I love that it's, downloadable, and they update it every year. So
yeah, I mean, they go into, the across the board, some of the stuff that they, the topics that are even on the chart are, you can go through them. You're sitting there scrolling.
Yeah,
through
you've got all the dimensions. It's got the panel block if they've got hinges. It's got the plastic or steel EPS. Spacing of the webs, fire rating.
I think you've even got codes on there. There's like code approvals.
Sound attenuation, sidewall thickness, height adjusters, it goes on and on and on. Yeah, building considerations, code approvals, support.
Tells what support. So this episode, I guess we kind of jumped ahead a little bit. This episode, we want to talk about the importance of picking the right block.
Yes.
We're not going to get into specifics. I'm going to leave that for the pros, for the guys to come on. We've got basically any and every brand we can reach out to, as well as obviously anybody that you guys bring to us that you want us to get on the podcast. We welcome every person from every company to come on and tell us in depth about theirs. That's kind of the way we're going to continue to kind of go back over what this podcast, or how I plan on laying this podcast out. We want it to be an episode by episode education of this industry. So we are planning on breaking every episode into specific. There may be slight bleed over, but we really want it to be specifically about everything. So
topic specific,
topic wise, yeah. So we're looking at it. We're going to say, we're going to have one episode just on build block, and one episode on Fox block, and one episode on plumb wall bracing, or on different giraffe bracing. So we want to basically give every company their chance to come on here and give their pitch and talk about what they do and educate everybody about their product. Because I think it's that way you can go back through our episodes and pick off the ones you want to listen to. So this one I think is going to be a very general episode for everyone to listen to, which will be the importance of picking the right block. It's really one of the first things you need to do. You kind of start with making that decision to build with ICF, that you want to build ICF and not that stupid fire starter stick frame crap. Trying to keep this podcast PG. Our other one is not PG, and we're trying to keep the explicit tag off of this one. So anyways, but all the junk that people build their houses out of, other than ICF. So we want to, that's your first decision. Then your second decision is going to need to be picking that block. And as someone who owns a drafting company, you can attest that it is extremely important to pick that block company and who you're working with before you even start your design.
It is. It's especially if you are budget conscious and you're trying to build something that is price-wise comparable to a stick frame home.
100%. And which by the way, that'll transition into our next episode, which is going to be how to keep your costs down below stick frame. And we'll get into that in depth on the next one. But very important, because if we can design your house around the actual dimensions, which like we said on this chart, this chart shows you the dimensions, so you have it right in front of you, so we can sit there and look at what that is. That way we can justify how to lay out the house, which again we'll go in depth in the next one. But once you pick that block, and there's a lot of things that go into picking the block, so getting into that, we basically the first and foremost is obviously you got into the ICF industry, or into the ICF world, I would say, by figuring out, you heard somebody talk about ICF, you figured it out somehow, so you probably have some sort of connection to somebody that has used a block. I always go back to the fact that the first and best thing you can do is, if you know people that have used ICF, ask them about the blocks they used, ask them what brands they used, and ask them what their experience was with it. Good or bad, ask them to just spill the really get it out of them. Say, hey, don't candy coat it. Let me know what you think what was good, what was bad, because you need all that information to make the decision. So we are basically going to come in there and ask the people Mm-hmm. If you are starting cold turkey and you legitimately don't know anything about any brand of block, that's where hopefully this episode comes in handy. You're going to have to do some research, but it is very much worth the research. I would say that we've both had experience with unfortunate situations where people pick the wrong block company, and they've come to us to try to fix it.
Yeah, and the wrong block company for several different reasons. I think just even in starting out, like looking at this chart, there's 20 different block manufacturers listed on this chart on ICF magazine. And
traditional ICF.
Traditional
there's more
ICF.
There's more alternatives too. So
exactly.
At least 20.
So there's 20 that are listed on here that they do the comparison for. And one of the big things, and I think one of the major things to look at when you're picking a block, is going to be local support.
100%.
So I don't think necessarily dimensions and all that stuff really play a whole lot into the first part of your decision. It's local support. And the biggest thing that we've seen is when somebody decides to build with a block that they don't have local support for or regional support for.
Right. They may have seen something online, and so they want it and they ship it in, but they don't have a rep locally, or they don't have a distributor locally. There's a huge importance in that. And you're going to see, one thing the reason why there's 20 ICF companies on there is there's a lot of regional companies.
Yes.
I manage the Western 11 states for a company, and we, I was amazed at how in just different pockets of even those 11 states, there was, I would come across a brand I'd never heard of, and they're like, oh, well, it's made right up the road here, and he only sells to local people. So that's why I haven't seen him at World of Concrete, or I haven't run into it in other states. So it is very regional. So you have to be aware of where it's being made. And that to me is not a game. That's not a
Deal killer.
No. I mean, if they're getting it to you in a timely fashion and they're not charging you $1 bazillion for freight, then you really don't care where it's being made. So some of the manufacturers are very particular. You'll find there's a lot of companies out there that manufacture through a third party. So majority of the companies out there will manufacture through a third party former, which, you go down and, I've spent a lot of time in those factories, and basically what they'll do is manufacturing facilities, and maybe one day they're making an ICF block, and maybe the next day they're making surfboards. One of the companies that we worked with a lot makes medical boxes, for shipping medical stuff, medication, as well as, all kinds of stuff. I don't know if they did body parts or not, but maybe. I like to think something exciting like that, but
okay.
We'll have to ask Robert. But anyways, there is some, they're doing a lot of different things, and ICF just happens to be one of the products they're manufacturing. Then you have some of the brands, usually the bigger boys, that are specific. They have their own factories, and all they do is pump out block. They're making their own block. They're not making other products in the spare time. They're not, they might be making flat sheet, but they're not making surfboards.
Yeah.
So there is a difference
specific,
there.
ICF specific factories.
Yeah. So that to me plays a little bit into your mindset too. Is that to me is something. Okay, are we, do it now? The benefits of that are a lot of the guys who are doing their own manufacturing will have only a few locations because it's very expensive to have a manufacturing facility. So what they're doing is they're going through, instead of having 2 of their own facilities, maybe in the whole country or in North America, a lot of this comes out of Canada, they may have 27 facilities. So, I mean, there may be one right down the road from you, and that may be really convenient to go pick up block from. So, a lot of those that have those, more facilities, they're a little more open to less than truckload orders, meaning they'll let you go pick up what you need, not, full truckloads like some of the brands. The company I sold for Amvic and was a territory manager for Amvic for 10 years. And I was, pretty much strictly all full truckload. We did not mess with that. We sold to distributors and then let the distributors sell down to people for less than truckload. But some of the brands with a lot of that manufacturing facilities, they use them also as distributing facilities, and they'll let you come in and pick up stuff. So that may be a deciding factor. If you can drive an hour away or 15 minutes away and go pick up 10 or 12 blocks instead of having to buy 600 or 700 blocks that come on a truck, that may be a deciding factor for you.
Yeah.
I will kind of back up too, speaking about manufacturers. The one thing that you will see the overall, and I've brought this up in a lot, I've been, interviewed on different things for, people just trying to understand what ICF is, and they ask, well, who makes ICF? You basically will see that there's essentially, you've got your big, I call it kind of the big 6, that you have up there that you'll see a lot, which are basically, and I can't remember exactly. I'm going to try to put them in order of size, and it's basically by what they sell.
Yeah,
but
and
it fluctuates a little bit. Give props to Nudura. Nudura has stayed in that number 1 spot for a long time. We'll have to ask Randy when he comes on. Randy Daniels from Fox Block is going to come on. I know they've picked up a lot of momentum, and they might be up right up there. But I know, basically at the top 6, they're all big boys, and they're all putting out a lot of block. And you've got Nudura, Fox Block, Amvic, Build Block, Logix, and Superform. All of which are putting out really, really good block in a high quantity. You'll notice that a lot of those guys, Fox Block, I will have to again ask Randy. A lot of those guys, I don't want to speak too much on them because I don't know their inner workings, but a lot of those guys are manufacturing their own block. They're not working through Reman or through a manufacturer. I know Fox Block does because they have a lot of facilities, but they do a lot of commercial work. So
Yeah.
everybody's got kind of their own thing, but those are kind of the ones you'll hear the most. So you've probably heard those names the most in the industry. I would even put like Stronghold as maybe like the, Quad Lock and Stronghold to me are up there as well as God, we're going to get close to the top 10, but I mean, you start getting into some of those guys that we hear a lot. And you're starting Stronghold's the newest block coming into the market. They've come in with real, they've come in loud, they've come in proud. They're coming in, in very aggressively. We've seen them definitely out in the West Coast a lot. I know they see them in the Midwest quite a bit too. But again, we'll speak to them and we'll find out, what their plan is and where they're going. But anyways, a lot of those guys that you'll see, and then there's kind of the tier 2 or second option. I don't even like to say tier 2 because they're doing a lot of business in their local area and they've got a different market plan. Is you've got regional guys.
Yes. And
those are the guys that you'll see. I know you've got the thing pulled up in front of you so you can say, but like Smart Block is one, right? That is regional. Perfect Block. There's some of these.
There's one like Hercutech. Hercuwall.
We apologize. We don't, as of now, I don't know any of these guys. I could speak to, we're hoping to get them on to talk about it, but there's a lot of these like regional companies and you may live right next to one of these regional guys and you may find out that everybody in your area is using Smart Block because
here's one I've never heard of this one. You may have. It's Arizona, New Mexico, and it says, I think it's Wisconsin, Mikey Block.
Yeah, I've heard, but I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
So it may be something you don't know. May not be anywhere near you. But again, comparison chart will say what areas they cover, so you can kind of look and see.
Well,
if you
it's
live
where
in
they're
those areas.
manufactured is what it's showing on here,
which is usually where they're going to be.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Used,
yeah, it's crazy because with the growth of ICF, the popularity of it, especially like starting, during COVID, it seemed like it really took off because people were really into building, a healthier home, build a better, I don't know if it was necessarily, COVID related or if it was just the timing of it was so perfect with, I think the NRMCA rolled out the Build with Strength program and all these things. So it just like took off. And so many more of these, I think the regional, we're hearing about them more and they're included on this chart now, where I think 4 or 5 years ago, they really were not on this chart because they were so focused in such a small area.
Yeah, no, and I think all of them kind of, and props to Craig and Vanessa and anyone else that's involved with putting that list together. They do a really good job of finding those companies and putting them on there. So, I think that they, that's another deciding factor for you. So you've got some other things too, like the breakdown blocks or a put together type block, like a Quad Lock, or a Nudura. Fox, I believe, has a breakdown block now. Like there's a lot of it, and everyone's always changing, but we call them a breakdown block, and they can be kind of one of two options. You can be a hinged, kind of a piano hinge type where it basically folds flat, but they're still embedded into the foam, so the webs are still embedded, but they kind of slide open and they slide, they fold down and then they unfold and they snap into place. And then you've got brands out there like Quad Lock, which Quad Lock is pieces. You get flat pieces and then you get the webs and you insert them on the job site and you kind of build the block as you go. Those may be good for if you live in a remote area where you're having to truck this stuff up yourself on a small trailer. We work and live in the mountains, so we do a lot of mountain builds. We're very aware of how hard it can be to get product to a job site on the side of a hill. Sometimes we've bought a side by side just to get up and down to some of our jobs because our truck was just getting beat up going up and down these little roads. So we've done that where we had one job, the whole job was shuttled up with a guy on his side by side on a little snowmobile trailer, and he took him 100 trips, I think, but he moved everything up.
But that was the only way to get
only way to get up there, right? And it was way easier to haul a bunch of EPS block up this road and build this 2-story big house than it was to take all the timbers and lumber and stuff that he would have had to haul up that road on this tight hairpin road. So it may be that fold down block you can get more block onto a truck or onto a trailer or in the back of a pickup or whatever it is. So that might be your deciding factor of why you go with it, right? But as you mentioned, the support thing is probably the biggest thing. Is support, is what is there in your area, as far as, and it's not just the manufacturing side. It is, do they have a rep or a distributor or a builder that's acting as a consultant or distributor? Do they have someone to help you through the process?
Well, take it a step further, but before you even really get to, I guess you're probably going to talk to a distributor or a rep before you start, your planning. But, do they have the resources available for your designer, for your architect, for the, the approvals, your inspections, your local jurisdiction?
Yeah, find out what their connection is and how much they're willing to help, because, if they're just going to come flying by and kick your roll your block off the side of the road and take off again, that's not a whole lot of help. But if they've got the ability to work with your designer, work with you, or even, ask them if they've worked with the local municipalities. I mean, a lot of times it's not as much as it used to be. When I started in this business, we fought with every single inspector. I think it was just always what's this? How are you building a house out of stone, out of foam? Like, there was a lot of weird questions and stuff. And now I think almost every single person has seen it. So I mean, they really,
but they do have questions.
They may be scared. Yeah, they may not understand it, but they have seen it.
Yeah.
So, but make sure that they've got something that maybe is a, maybe that supplier or that person has a connection and says, yeah, we built 10 houses in the last year in this area, and all the inspectors know us. They know how we work. I mean, we've had jobs where we pulled up on jobs, and especially you being the girl boss and everyone knowing you as, the female builder, and you're a certified master builder in our state. I mean, and so a lot of people know you. We've pulled up on jobs and they go, "Oh, you're building this, okay."
Yeah.
The inspector says, "Oh, hey Heather, okay, this is yours. Okay, I heard they were doing an ICF over here, and I was a little worried, but now I know it's you. It's fine."
Mm-hmm.
And immediately everything's fine. Because they know ICF's stronger than stick frame. I mean, it's easier to inspect than stick frame. So basically, they go, "Oh, well, we're fine."
But it's even when I'm supplying it and not actually, building it, it still makes a difference with the inspectors, because, you build that relationship with them, and that's what, your distributor, what your builder, what they're going to do.
The
block brand is going to do. Yeah. Like if you're looking at this and they've got assistance with engineering, that's a huge thing.
Huge, yeah.
Because, you're going to, most people are going to need some type of engineering for their walls to tell them what the specs, what the rebar spacing and all that stuff is going to be. There's
lintels are big, lintels.
Yeah. And
figuring out your lintels.
Like, I guess in Idaho, there are very few jurisdictions where we don't need engineering and we can just go off of prescriptive design. Yeah. So it's just going to vary all across the country, with regards to your jurisdiction. And I think that might be part of it too, when you're deciding which block company to use, is looking at, really the support of the local distributor, whether they're manufacturing there or not, and then all the departments that they have to help you with those plans and help your designer, help you. Training. This is another thing. Like you used to host trainings.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to start those classes up again.
Right.
And so is there a local training for the block brand that you're picking that teaches you how to do it? Because it is simple, but
super easy.
But I don't want to oversimplify it. It's very DIY friendly.
You can mess it up.
You can mess it up. It was like, good example. We had an architect that had drawn a lot of plans for us and had referred a lot of business for us, and then he was building a shop on his own property. He was like, "Oh, I watched my builder, build my house. I'm good. I can do the shop." And we go in to help him on the pour, and he doesn't have the webs lined up. But he was very efficient. He didn't have any waste.
Right.
But he didn't have his webs lined up, which was going to create an issue.
We're like, how do you put sheetrock on this?
Yeah.
The sheetrockers.
How do you even brace it?
Everyone's
before you even get to sheetrock.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
How do you even brace it so you can pour it? So it's those things, and having, it is simple, but there are rules with it. You have to do certain things. So, training classes are a big thing, just so that you understand and then have that person like you there that can go and do a pre-pour inspection, and before they call their building inspector out to do the official inspection.
Right.
But that's a big thing. Like, talk about some of the things that you see when you go do consultations, trainings.
Well, and that's the thing too. I'll do a little plug here. I do consult now. That's a big part of what we're pushing into business wise, is kind of trying to get out there. I travel, anywhere an airplane or a truck will take me for a price, not for free. But I do consulting, and we will go out and basically kind of and hit those key moments. Usually, we'll do the ideal situation is I'll come in and I'll do the layout with you and show you how to get started and kind of go over just the 101 of it, and then let you build. And then I usually come back the day before, do an inspection, just make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. We do a lot of FaceTiming and different pictures and stuff, videos of like mid process, just so I can make sure that things are going good. And then I'll come in and do that pre-inspection, and then we'll usually do the pour for them, because that's the most stressful part. But to answer your question, ironically, like the web's not lining up is probably one of the biggest things that we see. Like, people, even after you tell them to line the webs up, they don't. But and then also just not bracing things enough or correctly. There's always just a ability to, like, hey, put a few more braces. If there's a question, put it on there. So, little things like that. And I don't expect everyone to know. I just know because I've been on thousands and thousands of jobs, and I've I can tell you right now, I'm knocking on our wood table, I have never had a blowout on any job ever. I've tech jobs that had blowouts, and then I showed up and showed them why they had a blowout. I'm really good at avoiding blowouts, and so we've not had any kind of blowouts on our jobs, and I think it's because we do take a little bit more time and just make sure we're braced. And and it's funny, we'll post a picture on social media and you'll get someone saying, "Oh, there's sure a lot of wood on that." Well, yeah, and I've never had a blowout in 23 years, so. Yeah. It's just, sometimes we put a little extra effort into it, but those are the common things. But I can get into that in another episode. Yeah. But basically just trying to drive home the point that it's really important that you have good support staff. And I really take it a step farther, and I'm not trying to chuck anyone under the bus, but even doing your research with the people that are, I've had guys where I've had to come in and they say, well, I had a guy, he was the rep, blah, blah, blah. Well, then I come to find out that guy, he didn't really have a lot of he was a sales guy. He was a good sales guy. He didn't have a lot of experience pouring or doing ICF. He basically he sold cars, and then he started selling ICF, and he figured it out, and he knows a lot about ICF via the book, but he's never held on to the business end of a pump before, and he's never stacked a wall or had to square anything, because he sells the block and then kind of goes around and tells them what he read out of the book. So make sure that just do a little bit of extra digging on the people that you're vetting, I guess you could say, of the people that you're that are helping you, because they may or may not have a lot of firsthand knowledge of actually. Ask them how many they've built. Are they going to be there actually stacking block? Are they going to if they come out and their shoes are shiny and they're not wearing dirty cowboy boots, be aware. Be a little scared. I've seen that before too. So but no, it's a big part of it. And probably I would say maybe lastly would be well, I guess we were going to touch a little bit on the comparison chart too. There's also decking. Yep. So that's another thing that I would say is if you're wanting to do things, if your project, if you're like, yeah, I want to use concrete deck too. I want to put a concrete deck over, and have a double stacker garage, or I just want concrete floors. So for thermal mass and safety, different things, but you're doing like a quad deck or an insole deck or something like that you're going to put on there. It's good to talk with both of the companies and see who they work well with, because there's sometimes I've had companies that just don't play well together in the same sandbox, which is unfortunate. I try to, I'm not a peace love guy, but I definitely, within our industry, I think we have to all play together nice, because it's us against stick frame. So, but there are some companies that don't play well together when they're talking about bringing two products together. So make sure that whatever flooring system you're going to use, if you're going to use, that they work well with the block company. And some of them, there are companies out there that make just one or the other. There's some companies that make both. And I know people that prefer to use one brand of block and a different brand of decking, because they they prefer them differently. I mean, we're a good example. We like to use certain brands of block, but we use different brands of window bucks and stuff because we think they're just better and they cross over and they fit together good. So there's a lot of that where make sure whatever your whole project is going to come together nicely. Don't just get locked in with a block company and then say, oh, by the way, we're going to put this XYZ deck on top of it. And they go, oh, well, that doesn't work. We've had problems with that. Or make sure they like each other. Make sure they're going to play together well. And that also is on the comparison chart. There's a section for that, as well as alternative block companies, which is, something that, I've stayed away from a little bit. I'm a big proponent of a true ICF block, but there are some brands out there, and like I said, I try to play it pretty neutral on this podcast. You're welcome to reach out to me directly if you want more of an opinionated opinion about this stuff, but just do a lot of due diligence when you're looking at alternative products. There's a lot of products out there that I've run into over the years that are not have not done well as an alternative product. So there's a reason why the leaders are the leaders, and why this has worked so well. So just do that research. And then I would say lastly, alignment system.
Yeah, they have a bracing comparison on here, and obviously, being a distributor, right now everything that I have is plumb wall. I've got the Plum 3 system, I've got the all-in-one system. That's my preferred, but there are a lot of different ones out there. And so on the ICF bracing comparison, it talks about the turnbuckles, the foot plates, the scaffolding, storage crates, strong backs. So there's, what's on here? 1, 2.
Well, and here's just something that I mentioned because it's, I love Chad. We work with Chad a lot on different things. He does great stuff. Their alignment system's amazing. One major difference is the way theirs is designed. It won't go 90 degrees, right?
Correct.
So there are some brands out there where you can flip them 90 degrees and use them for decking, bracing, or headers or whatever.
I was going to look and see if that was included on here.
Yeah, I don't know. So I know Giraffe Brace. I've got a couple of my good friends that are that run both, and they run Giraffe Brace because they can flip it over and use it sometimes for different header situations or a 90-degree angle situation. It's got more leniency in how it lines up, but it's all manual. You don't have the adjustment nut on it. So anyway, just some differences, but do the research and make sure what you're using has good bracing, because you can have the best block in the world. I mean, you're still putting 40, 50 yards of mud in there, and it's tons and tons and tons of weight, and you have to understand that, like, if you don't brace it correctly, it's gonna go bad.
Well, and it's not just the bracing is part of it, but you're up on that.
Right. It's a safety issue.
It's a safety issue as well when you're walking up there and pouring concrete.
Yeah, and there's obviously in the past there's been a lot of you've got like the Zonts and Zuckles and those that are used with a wood. They use wood with them, and those seem to work great for a lot of people. So it doesn't have to be a set system. We've switch to the set system, but it's expensive, so a lot of people will go with the less expensive. But do something to brace it. Like it's got to be braced, and I really, really emphasize it needs to be adjustable, because I've been doing this a long time, and I'm almost always having to adjust those walls at some point during the build, during the pour, after the pour, different things, and so it's something you want to have an adjustable system. So having that's a decision factor. Like, does the block company you have distribute also have that, or do they at least have access to somebody they know that they can refer you to
for a rental versus having to really,
We rent our systems out. They pretty much go out the beginning of the year. We don't see them back till the end of the year because everybody, we keep them rented out. Just make sure you've got somebody that you can get those from. But ideally, yes, if it can be through that block company or through that distributor, that really is a deciding factor for a lot of people too. So, anyone listening to this, whether are coming at this from the business side and distributor side, it's a great way to make a living.
Yes.
It's a great way to make money is to have those rental equipment. We rent them to all kinds of different brands of company.
Yeah.
We rent them to our competitors. Another one that people should look into, and we'll have them on here as well. We'll get TJ on here from Quick Header.
Yes.
Quick Header is a company that makes headers for mostly they started out kind of in the CMU business, for doing headers for CMU, but they just line up really well and work really well with ICF block as well. And it's basically a really cool, strong system, so you don't have to have it braced as much. You can still keep a pretty good wide opening, like in a garage door or a big slider or something like that. And it works really good for big openings in your ICF block. And again, another rental opportunity. You can buy those, own them, and then rent them out. And they're adjustable, slide wide. Anyways, go check out Quick Header. We'll have him on. He can talk about it. But those are things that if you've got these distributors and block companies that basically have that information available to you, that could be a really good asset as well. So make sure you're doing all that research and figuring out in that block company. And hopefully, obviously we keep listening to the podcast. We're hoping that we'll have everybody on here and over the next few months, hopefully we can get all those block companies on here to answer questions for you. And in the meantime, you're going to have to do your own research a little bit, but we will definitely be trying to get everybody on here. And if you find a block company that you want us to talk to, please shoot us an email at info@buildwithicf.com. Everything on our socials is buildwithicf.com. Feel free to DM us or jump on Facebook, Instagram. I haven't done TikTok yet.
We're going to have to do TikTok.
We're going to have to do TikTok. So we'll be figuring it out. But we reach out to us and let us know. I can't believe we talked about, we thought this was going to be a 15-minute episode. I was like, I don't know if we can talk for 30 minutes on
you underestimate
just
yourself.
Block. And, yeah. Here we are at 36 minutes in. Yeah. So I'm impressed that we were able to stretch it out. And I probably could keep talking.
Yeah, you definitely could keep talking. I know that, but we'll not ramble. We'll stay focused, which is a total different thing than what we do on your other podcasts.
Correct. We have zero focus on the other podcasts.
But this is good. So go look at.
Which, by the way, is the Wreak Havoc podcast. If anyone wants to go listen to it.
Okay, but go to icfmag.com and there's the ICF comparisons right on their homepage. Great information. For you to have.
I'll put a link in the show notes as well.
Just great starting point. And then, like you said, please send us questions if you have, specific questions that you want us to answer, whether it be on our next podcast or, if it's something quick, we can just write back to you. Send us an email, send us a DM. We love it. We've been getting some of those and been responding to people. So we'll start having a section on each one of our podcasts for our ICF Qs.
Yeah, and we're purposely going to roll all of our podcasts out, or try to keep rolling our podcasts out on Fridays, because it basically what we find is there is quite a few questions roll in, and it gives me the weekend to try to respond to people and get back, or at least first thing Monday, get back to everybody. So that I think it's going to be pretty purposeful that we'll put this out on a Friday. That way people can listen to it over the weekend. If they have questions, they can shoot it to me, and that way I try to get back to you with any of the DMs or emails and stuff and questions they have. So we're here to help. That's why we're doing this. It's very important to us that we grow this industry and just share how great it's been for us and how much we love it. So anyways, if anybody has any questions or anything, is there anything you got for closing that you want to?
No, well, I always say that no first, but yes. So right now we're going to roll them out every other Friday. Mm-hmm. But
we may jam some extras in there.
Get some extras in here as we start.
We just got so much to get out.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot. But yeah, reach out to us, info@buildwithicf.com, on all the socials, Build with ICF.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. Well, if there's anything else you guys think of, please let us know. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll catch you on the next episode, which will be how to keep the cost down on ICF, how to build an ICF house for the same, maybe even less than a stick frame.
Yes.
Poopy house. Okay. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.